I've got some purity culture stories that would make people feel uncomfortable if they heard me telling them to you while I was walking down the street, so that's why I'm in the studio. Purity culture ruins lives and marriages. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. For those of you who are not familiar with purity culture, it is this conservative evangelical teachings on body and sexuality that says that any sort of sexual pleasure outside of marriage is wrong and evil and a sin, and often teaches people that their bodies are not their own, especially when... These are not my stories. They're the stories of people I know. I have permission to share them, and I think they deserve to be heard. Here's one. For me, it was always being the good girl as a child, but when I became an adult and had intimate relations for the first time outside of marriage, my dad threatened to call the cops on me because in the state where they lived at the time, fornication was a crime and he could have her arrested for it. And then he sent their mom to live with them to get them back in line. Being told what I wore could cause guys to have lustful thoughts, so I was causing them to sin. I went to a youth revival with a friend, and the preacher was screaming from the pulpit and calling out girls for having slits in their skirts, which were long, by the way. I was petrified and tried to tuck the bottom of my dress together. Fast forward to some guy pressing his crotch into my backside while we were backstage at a play rehearsal. All the guys laughed. I was wearing a bodysuit with jeans. I never wore a bodysuit again. I thought it was my fault. I wore a lot of baggy clothes after that. Guess what? It didn't stop my boyfriend, a preacher's kid, from graping me. The implicit and sometimes stated promise of remaining pure until marriage was that we'd have the most incredible smex life of any, and any of that kind of activity would ruin any chance at lasting happiness. Spoiler, my wife and I did that before we got married, shame, enjoyed it, double shame, and hid it, triple shame, and then struggled to unpack all of that years or decades later, resulting in struggles in that part of our life for the last 6 years. So ultimately, self-fulfilling prophecy. Shame, guilt, trauma from the expectations placed in us resulting in dreadful consequences for our relationship when we failed to meet those expectations. In high school, I went to a Bible study where we went over the modesty survey. A bunch of, get this, young men had been asked, what do girls say or wear that cause you to stumble? And what can girls do to help? In my particular Bible study, we discussed the following answers. A, taking off a hoodie in front of them. We should go to the bathroom for that. B, fixing our bra strap if it falls. We should go to the bathroom for that. Wearing a skirt without pantyhose underneath. Sitting on the couch with our arms stretched across the back. If we had a crossbody purse, don't wear it because crossbody, it sits between our chest and defines them too much. There was a whole bunch of them. And you can actually Google that on SlideShare, I think, the modesty survey. Eesh. Layers to this one. Married couple saying, we acted as mentors to some of the middle schoolers and high schoolers, including a girl who we had known her whole life and had been the flower girl in our wedding a few years earlier. The girl was 13. She wore a form-fitting dress that fit the dress code to a service at camp one day. Her step-grandmother yelled at her, pulled another woman in to look at how inappropriate her dress was, and told the girl that it was going to make this person's husband want to touch her. The girl came to this woman sobbing, completely humiliated and terrified, and they had her publicly apologize to the church, and she had spent her young life being told that she was a product of sin, and that the same thing would happen to her if she wasn't careful. This teaching is not okay. Like, did you hear that? People blaming themselves when they were harassed or abused. People who had shame about their bodies because of this. People whose marriages were made incredibly hard for years and years because of this teaching. And this teaching isn't really in the Bible. Look, they point to Bible verses, but they're almost always taken out of context. And let's just be really clear that taking the way a culture that was 2,000 years ago thought about sexuality and relationships and trying to live that out today is a bad idea. Your body is your own. You are not responsible for what other people think about your body, and definitely not responsible for the ways they act on those thoughts. Pleasure is good, and if you believe in God, God created pleasure. And you get to choose. You have agency. You get to choose how to experience that pleasure and with whom. There's no shame. And if you have stories that you think might help other people, post them in the comments. I'll do another video.